They never really looked at me. Not really. I was just the guy in the uniform at the front desk. A nod when they came in, a glance when they left. My job was to sign delivery slips, buzz people in, and call maintenance when the elevators jammed. I knew every face in that building, every name tag, every coffee order, but none of them knew mine. One day, one of the junior managers dropped her coffee right in front of me. I bent to pick it up, handed her some napkins from the desk drawer. She didn't even say thank you, just muttered something about her shoes and walked away, leaving the mess. I wiped it up. That was the rhythm of my life. Clean up what wasn't yours. Keep your head down. Get through the day. The cameras were my real company. I watched them for hours, screens filled with silent lives. I saw people cheat, steal, flirt, cry. I saw one woman punch a wall in the stairwell and crumble to the floor. I saw a man eat his lunch alone in the same corner every day, always checking his phone, never getting a call. I saw more than they thought I did. I'd worked in that office tower for 3 years. I was always early, always polite, always invisible. The suits walked past me like I was part of the furniture. When I said, "Good morning," they mumbled back, if they answered at all. I knew their gossip, their schedules, their moods. But to them, I was just the security guy. At night, I walked the halls. Flashlight in one hand, clipboard in the other. I knew the hum of every floor, the creak of every vent. I knew which lights flickered and which doors didn't close right. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it was mine. I didn't have many options, not after what happened in my last one. They told me I had a presence. That's what the supervisor said when she hired me. You make people feel safe. But even the feeling of safety is taken for granted. Nobody thinks about the guy who's supposed to save them. Not until he has to. And I never thought I would. Until that one Friday afternoon. It started with something so small I almost missed it. One of the security screens showed a flicker, like static, but not quite. I leaned closer. It was the hallway on the 11th floor, outside the storage room. At first, I thought it was a camera glitch. But then I noticed the way the light shifted, like a shimmer in the air. Then it hit me. Smoke. Not thick, not obvious, just a haze. Barely there, but enough for me to stand up. I called the floor immediately. No one answered. Then I tried the office line. Still nothing. The camera didn't show fire, just a creeping gray veil crawling along the ceiling. My stomach dropped. I hit the fire alarm manually. It wasn't automatic. Not in this old building. We were supposed to wait for confirmation. But I'd seen enough. I wasn't going to let them burn because of some protocol. The alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the lobby. People looked up from their phones and laptops, annoyed more than concerned. I grabbed my radio and sprinted toward the stairwell. I skipped the elevator. Never take elevators in a fire. And started climbing 2 steps at a time. Floor by floor, the smell got sharper, acrid, real, not electrical, more like plastic and paper mixed. Something big was burning. On the 9th floor, people were still packing their bags like it was a drill. "Let's go! Real fire, people!" I yelled, pointing towards the stairs. They looked confused, then scared. I saw one woman freeze in the hallway, clutching her purse like it would protect her. I guided her with my arm, pushed the stairwell door open, and told them to move fast and stay low. That's when it hit me. Most of them had no idea what to do. By the time I reached the 11th floor, the smoke was thicker. My shirt stuck to my back with sweat. The hallway was quiet, too quiet. I banged on office doors, yelling, "Fire! Evacuate now!" A man opened one slowly, blinking like he was waking from a dream. "Is this real?" he asked. I didn't answer. I just pulled him out and moved to the next. Then I saw her, one of the interns, the shy one who always wore headphones. She was crouched near the break room, coughing, eyes watering. The exit was only 10 feet away, but she couldn't see it. I grabbed her by the wrist and pulled her into the stairwell. The door slammed behind us with a metal echo. We coughed together all the way down. Back in the lobby, it was chaos. People shouting, phones ringing, the sound of fire trucks in the distance. I waved my arms, directing people toward the exits, keeping them away from the elevator. One guy tried to sneak back upstairs for his laptop. I blocked him. "It's not worth your life," I said. He looked angry until the glass behind us cracked from the heat above. Smoke began pouring down the stairwell. My radio buzzed. Fire crew incoming. I gave them a floor-by-floor report. I don't know where the calm came from, but I had it. Maybe because I'd practiced it 100 times in my head. Maybe because no one else knew what to do. I wasn't invisible anymore. Every eye in that lobby was on me. Then I remembered the janitor. Mr. Collins. He was old, walked slow, and usually cleaned the 12th floor late in the afternoon. I hadn't seen him come out. I cursed under my breath and turned back to the stairwell. "Where are you going?" someone shouted. I didn't answer. I couldn't leave him behind. The smoke on the stairs was thicker now. Each step burned my throat. I covered my mouth with my sleeve and counted the floors as I climbed. 11, then 12. I pushed the door open with my shoulder, squinting through the haze. "Mr. Collins!" I shouted. Nothing. Then a cough. Far down the hall, I ran toward the sound, tripping on something, a fallen, wet floor sign. He was leaning against a cart, one hand on his chest. I didn't hear the alarm," he rasped. I wrapped his arm over my shoulder and half-dragged, half-carried him to the stairs. The descent was slow. Every few steps, we had to stop. His breath wheezed like a broken accordion. But we made it. When we reached the lobby, a paramedic rushed to take him. Mr. Collins gave me a thumbs up before the mask went over his face. Outside, the building belched smoke into the sky. People huddled on the sidewalk, coughing, crying, hugging each other. Firefighters rushed past me. No one stopped me. No one asked my name. But they looked. Really looked. Like I mattered. I stood there, hands on my knees, lungs on fire. And for the first time in 3 years, I wasn't just the guy in the chair. I was the reason they got out. The next morning I came in early. Not because I had to. I couldn't sleep. I'd spent the night replaying everything. The flicker on the camera, the stairwell, Mr. Collins wheezing against my shoulder. I wasn't proud. I was unsure. Like maybe it hadn't happened the way I remembered. But then I walked into the lobby, and for the first time, people looked up. Looked at me. Not past me. Their eyes said something I hadn't seen in 3 years. Recognition. The receptionist smiled nervously. "You saved people," she said. Just that. No dramatic pause, no speech. I nodded. I did what anyone would. But I didn't believe it, because I knew most people wouldn't. Most people wait for permission, for backup. I didn't wait, I just moved. Later that morning, the building manager came down from his office. He was usually short with me, the kind of man who asked, "You still here?" instead of, "Good morning." But today he shook my hand. Tight. Firm. "Well done," he said, like I was one of his employees instead of the ghost in the corner. He even offered me a bottle of water. Strange how the smallest gestures feel enormous when you've been ignored for so long. Then came the press. Somehow, someone had told them. Maybe it was a tenant, maybe one of the firefighters. All I know is, around noon, a local news crew showed up. They asked to speak to me. The security guard who pulled people out. Not the man, not the professional, just the guard. But I stood in front of their camera anyway. I told them what happened. I didn't try to sound smart, just honest. The story aired that night. My phone buzzed non-stop. People I hadn't heard from in years. Cousins, old classmates, even an ex who said, "I always knew you'd be brave." I smiled at that. Not because it was true, but because it wasn't. I wasn't brave, I was terrified, but fear didn't stop me. That's what made the difference. For a few days, I felt different, like I mattered. People said thank you when they walked into the building. Someone left me a sandwich from the cafe with a note that read, "To the man who showed up." I didn't know who it was from, but I ate it alone, slowly, like a king who knew the crown was borrowed. The company even invited me to a recognition event. I sat in the back of a large conference room, waiting for someone to call my name. They didn't. Not until the very end. And let's not forget our building's own security, Marcus Johnson. A weak clap followed. Polite, like the applause at a school recital for a kid who played the wrong notes. Still, I stood. I waved. And for a moment, I felt heat behind my eyes. Not from fire. From silence. The following week, it started to fade. The looks became shorter. The thank yous disappeared. No one asked how I was doing. No one mentioned the girl I pulled from the hallway or Mr. Collins, who was still in the hospital recovering. Even the manager forgot my name again, called me Chief, like always. The news crew never followed up. One morning, I found the thank you sandwich wrapper in the trash room. Someone had thrown it out by mistake, I guess. I stared at it longer than I should have. Then I tossed it deeper into the bin. A new tenant moved in on the 8th floor. He looked right past me as he walked through the lobby. Talked to the receptionist, not me. When I held the elevator for him, he didn't say thanks, didn't nod, just looked at his phone. I felt it again. The quiet erasure. The way people forget the ones they don't consider part of the story. A week later, a fire drill was scheduled. I posted signs, made announcements, sent emails no one read. On the day of the drill, people still looked annoyed when the alarm sounded. Some didn't even leave their desks. A woman on 10 asked if I could turn it off because she was on a Zoom call. I wanted to scream, "What if this was real again?" But I didn't scream. I just stood by the stairs and counted heads, same as before. I went to visit Mr. Collins that weekend. He was sitting in a recliner, hooked up to oxygen but smiling. "Heard you're famous," he said with a wheeze. I laughed. "Famous for 5 minutes," I replied. "Then it's back to invisible." He looked at me hard. "You think they forgot. But some of us remember. Some of us always will." That meant more to me than all the news coverage combined. The next month, a new security guard joined the night shift. Young guy, sharp haircut, asked a lot of questions. He called me sir, even though I told him not to. I trained him carefully, told him what to watch for, how to notice the small things, the flicker, the smell, the silence. He said, "You act like this job matters." I looked him in the eye. "It does, if you let it." One morning, I found a sticky note on my desk. It read, "Thank you for not waiting." No name, just that. I still don't know who left it, but I keep it folded in my wallet, right behind my ID. Because sometimes, when no one sees you, you have to remind yourself that you were there. And sometimes, that's enough. It's strange how quickly people return to their habits. The lobby is full again. Suits tapping on phones, delivery guys rushing past, receptionists chatting. And me. Back at my post, unnoticed. I nod. They don't nod back. The security uniform, once seen as something heroic, is now just polyester again. A costume, not armor. The fire changed the building, but only for a moment. They installed new alarms, stricter protocols, but the people, they stayed the same. They forget fast. I don't blame them anymore. That's what survival looks like for most, moving on. But I couldn't move on. Not fully. Not after seeing what could happen. What almost did. I began watching closer. Not because it was my job, but because I couldn't help it. Every flicker in the hallway light made my chest tighten. Every burnt smell from the toaster in the kitchenette sent my mind racing. I started writing things down. Time, location, what I saw. I made notes on people too, who left candles burning, who blocked the fire exits with boxes. I wasn't obsessed. I was alert. Too alert. Sleep became rare. I'd lie in bed, eyes open, imagining alarms that never went off, smoke that wasn't there. Sometimes I dreamed of the fire, but it changed. In the dream, I ran, but no one followed. I yelled, but no one heard. I saved no one. Those nights, I'd get up and walk, past the building, around the block, as if I needed to see it still standing with my own eyes. One afternoon, a tenant came to me about a noise complaint. I offered to help. As I climbed the stairs to the 10th floor, I saw a cigarette burning in a trash can, unattended. My heart dropped. I stomped it out, checked every hallway, even pulled the fire alarm just in case. It was overreacting, I know, but I couldn't not react. That tenant filed a complaint, said I scared her. The building manager asked me to ease up. I nodded, but inside I was furious. Ease up? I saved lives. I took action while others froze. Now I was being treated like a nuisance again, like I'd imagined everything. I started to feel the old invisibility creeping back. But this time, it burned. It burned louder. There was one person who still talked to me, Javier, the janitor. He was an old man, slow but observant. "You look restless, amigo," he said one morning. I told him everything. How the recognition faded, how people forgot, how I couldn't. He looked me in the eye and said something I never expected. When you carry fire inside you, you either use it or let it eat you. That stayed with me. I began writing a letter to corporate. I detailed every safety flaw in the building. I listed suggestions, shared incident reports, even suggested drills for staff. No one responded. I sent it again. Nothing. I realized then I wasn't being ignored. I was being silenced. Because no one likes a mirror. No one likes to be reminded they were vulnerable once. Still, I kept watching. I kept acting. A toaster fire on floor 7. I caught it before anyone noticed. A leaking gas line in the basement. I reported it until it was fixed. Each time, no thank you, no mention. Just another day. Another invisible fire put out. The worst part? I started doubting myself, wondering if maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was chasing ghosts. Maybe being seen that one time had made me crave it too much. I hated that thought. I didn't want applause. I wanted safety. I wanted to matter. I visited Mr. Collins again. He looked better. He was walking now. We sat in silence for a while. Then he said, "You ever think maybe you were born for this?" I laughed bitterly. "For what? Being ignored?" He shook his head. "No, for noticing what others don't, for running when others freeze." I didn't know what to say. No one had ever said that to me. That night, I sat on my bed with the note from my wallet. "Thank you for not waiting." I stared at it until my eyes blurred. That one sentence meant more than any award ever could. It reminded me that even if the world forgot, someone didn't, someone saw, and maybe that was enough. There's a kind of peace in being forgotten. At first, it stings, like being left out of a photo, like speaking into a room where no one listens. But eventually, I stopped expecting thanks. I stopped hoping for the nods, the claps, the recognition. It made me lighter. All I had to do now was do the job, even if no one saw. Every morning, I get up before the sun. I press my uniform, lace up my boots, and walk through the city before it wakes. The streets are still. The air is cleaner. I like that part. No noise, no eyes, just me and the hum of everything waiting to go wrong. I pass the bakery, the newsstand, the fire station. I don't wave. They don't either. But we exist. That's enough. I get to the building early. I check the stairwells, the sprinkler panels, the smoke detectors, every floor, every exit. I make my own rounds, the ones they don't assign. I talk to the building in my head, like an old friend. "You good today?" I whisper. "Anything I should know?" It never answers, but somehow I understand anyway. Sometimes I catch small things, a gas smell near the boiler room, a jammed door in stairwell C. I report them. No one thanks me. Sometimes no one even fixes them. So I do it myself. Duct tape, WD-40, common sense. I became the invisible thread holding this place together. I didn't ask for that. But I didn't run from it either. People still pass me in the lobby without a glance. But every once in a while, a kid will wave, or a nurse will nod, or an old man will say, "Still here, huh?" And I smile, because I am. Still here. Still watching. Still the same guy who pulled people out of the smoke, even if they've forgotten. Javier retired. He left a note in my locker. "Keep carrying the fire." It made me cry. Not because he was gone, but because someone had noticed. Really noticed. Like I was more than a uniform. Like I was a man. I never did get promoted. They hired a younger guy to oversee security, flashy, with apps and spreadsheets. He calls me old school. That's fine. Let him have the title. I'll have the keys. The knowledge, the instincts that only come from surviving and saving. One day the alarm went off again. False alarm. A drill. But people panicked, even after all the protocols. I stood calm. I guided them out. Muscle memory. No one asked me to. I just did it. And when the manager asked me later why I took charge, I said, "Because I know how it feels when no one does." I sat on the curb after that drill, watching people re-enter the building. They laughed, shook off the fear, joked about burnt popcorn or sensor glitches. And me, I just breathed, deep and steady, like I do after every fire, real or imagined. Maybe they'll never write articles about me. Maybe there won't be plaques or ceremonies. But someone's life is still going because I acted, because I noticed, because I wasn't invisible in that moment. And that's enough. Sometimes I open the drawer where I keep that note. Thank you for not waiting. It's worn now, creased and faded. But it grounds me. Because I know what I did. I know who I am. Not a hero, not a savior. Just a man who saw the fire and stepped in. Even if no one's watching. Especially then.